equities that are hitting the market?
Well, the beauty of these companies is that they're launching securities that appeal to a wide range of investors.
I'd been researching XLM and XRP for weeks. Honestly, I thought I understood them. Ripple's the corporate bridge, right? The banker's blockchain. And Stellar? The people's version, the humanitarian one, the open source twin. That's how everyone explains it. But that night, something hit me. What if they were never rivals at all? What if they were two wings of the same bird? One building the rails for institutions, the other for humanity itself. I mean, look at the pattern. Both launched from the same roots, Ripple Labs, Jed McCaleb, the dream of frictionless money movement. But instead of splitting out of competition, what if the separation was strategic? Like dividing power so one part could work with the system, while the other worked around it. XRP became the suit, the one that could sit across from banks, regulators, and central bankers. XLM became the heartbeat, the network that could move value where banks don't even reach. Rural Africa, South America, refugee corridors, digital IDs, aid transfers. And suddenly, all the chaos in crypto, all the wars over regulation and decentralization, started to feel staged. Like two missions running in parallel, each solving a piece of the same global puzzle. Because think about it, if the world's economy really is moving toward tokenized value, CBDCs, stablecoins, instant settlement, then we don't just need one solution. We need a bridge between worlds. XRP connects banks to banks. XLM connects people to people. Together, they connect everyone to everything. And that's when it hit me. Maybe this whole competition narrative was designed to distract us. Because while everyone was arguing about which coin would win, the same underlying architecture, the XRPL family, was quietly being embedded into systems we use every day. Take a look at who's been testing Stellar lately. The UN, the IMF sandbox, even the US Treasury pilot for humanitarian digital aid. XLM isn't trending on crypto Twitter. It's running real transactions for people who don't even know they're touching blockchain. And meanwhile, XRP's making peace with the very institutions that control liquidity on a global scale. What if, just what if, the reason both coins survived this long while thousands of others vanished is because they were both meant to, like a yin and yang of the new financial order. As I kept scrolling, reading, connecting dots, I stumbled on something that froze me. In multiple international reports, both Stellar and Ripple were listed under the same category: interoperability and settlement solutions for cross-border value. They didn't separate them. They grouped them. Side by side. That's when my stomach flipped. Because if that's true, then the story we've been told, Stellar for the people, Ripple for the banks, isn't just coincidence. It's choreography. And the more I thought about it, the more the timeline made sense. Ripple fights regulators in the open, clearing legal paths, defining precedent. Stellar stays quiet, working behind the curtain with humanitarian agencies and fintech startups. Two different paths, one destination. Global value transfer, instant, cheap, borderless. And I couldn't help but ask myself, what if, when the system finally flips, when the world officially moves to blockchain-based settlement, XRP becomes the corporate bridge asset for central banks, and XLM becomes the retail bridge for the people? A two-layered structure. XRP moves the wholesale money. XLM moves the human money. It's wild, right? But doesn't it feel too clean to be random? Because think about it, when you zoom out, both ecosystems mirror each other's capabilities. Both can move stable coins, tokenize assets, process near-instant settlements. Both integrate ISO 20022. Both align with the World Bank's 2030 Digital Inclusion Roadmap. The only real difference is who they serve. And that difference might not be opposition, it might be intention. You can feel it in the way Stellar operates, quietly, deliberately, with this almost moral energy behind it. When I read about how Stellar helped the UN distribute aid directly to Ukrainians using digital vouchers, it didn't feel like crypto hype. It felt like a glimpse of the future. A world where money actually works for everyone, not just institutions. And that's when I said it out loud, almost whispering to myself, wait, what if Stellar and Ripple aren't competing to win? They're preparing to merge? Not merge like a company takeover, but merge in function. The same rails, different lanes, one system. That's when I realized, this isn't just another bull run story. It's a transition story. And we're right in the middle of it. You know when someone starts talking about crypto and your brain just goes, bro, I don't speak blockchain? Yeah, I get it. But this is different. Because once you understand what XLM and XRP are really doing, it's not even about crypto anymore. It's about how the entire world is learning to move money like we send texts. So let me break it down the way I told my cousin last week. No jargon, no hype. Just facts, flow, and a little common sense. Imagine you're trying to send 100,000 Nigerian nairas or $500 from Nigeria to the US, or from the Philippines to Europe. You go to the bank and the fees are crazy. Then it takes days. Sometimes it even gets lost. That's the current system. Now picture this instead. You open an app built on Stellar, you type the amount, hit send, boom. It reaches the other side in seconds, for less than a penny. That's not theory. That's happening right now. Stellar XLM is built for that, for real people moving real money. It's the blockchain that says, you shouldn't need to be rich or tech-savvy to access global finance. And then there's XRP, same roots, different lane. XRP is like the professional version of Stellar. If Stellar is the one that helps you send cash to your mom abroad, XRP is the one helping entire banks send billions to each other without middlemen. They do the same thing, just on different scales. It's like two highways, one for public cars, one for cargo trucks. They might look separate, but they both connect the same cities. Now here's the crazy part. These two highways were built by people who started in the same company, Ripple Labs. When they split, it wasn't a fight. It was a fork in the road. Jed McCaleb, who helped build Ripple, left and created Stellar with a slightly different mission. Make the same technology available to everyone. So when people say XRP versus XLM, I just laugh. Because it's not a competition. It's literally two halves of one original vision. You can feel that when you look at their partnerships. Ripple's working with Santander, Bank of America, and the National Bank of Egypt, that's the institutional money. Stellar's working with MoneyGram, the UN, Franklin Templeton, and Circle, the company behind USDC. That's the people and retail side. See how the puzzle fits? They're building the rails for different passengers. Ripple moves the money that powers economies. Stellar moves the money that powers lives. And that's why, when someone says, bro, I only hold XRP because it's for banks, I always tell them, you might be missing the bigger picture. Because when this digital financial system goes fully live, when central banks issue CBDCs, when remittances go fully digital, when the IMF starts connecting currencies on blockchain rails, it won't be one asset that wins. It'll be the networks that work together. And guess which two already speak the same technical language? Yep, XRP and XLM. Both ISO 20022 compliant. Both designed for fast settlement. Both ready for regulated financial environments. It's almost like they were built to meet at the same destination. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Think about how money really moves. You've got wholesale payments, that's government and corporate money. And retail payments, that's you and me. The old system handles both, but inefficiently. What Ripple and Stellar have done is create a bridge for each category. XRP handles wholesale liquidity, moving value between banks and central banks. XLM handles retail liquidity, moving value between wallets, fintech apps, and end users. So in a future where everything runs on digital rails, you'd need both layers for the system to work smoothly. That's why I say, if you hold XLM and XRP, you're not betting on coins, you're holding infrastructure. But most people don't see that yet. They're still stuck comparing price charts instead of studying purpose. It's like trying to guess which wheel on a plane will make it fly higher. The truth is, you need both. Here's something else most people miss. Stellar's humanitarian partnerships aren't small-scale experiments. The United Nations actually used Stellar to deliver aid in Ukraine. The Stellar Development Foundation has seats in the World Economic Forum's Blockchain Council. And their CEO has spoken directly about working with governments on regulated stablecoins. Meanwhile, Ripple is finalizing its partnerships with central banks for digital currency settlement, Bhutan, Palau, and even trials connected to the UK and Europe. They're not competing, they're covering ground. And the deeper you look, the more it feels coordinated. Like Ripple's building the top half of the pyramid, the financial institutions, while Stellar's building the base, the people and fintechs. And someday soon, those two halves will need to link. That's why, when people ask me, which one should I buy, XLM or XRP? I always smile and say, both, because one day, they might be the same conversation. You ever get that feeling? Like everything that's happening right now in global finance isn't random. It's orchestrated? Not in the chaotic conspiracy kind of way, but in the quiet, methodical moves of a chess grandmaster who's been 10 steps ahead all along. That's what this whole thing feels like. A game that's been unfolding for years. And suddenly, it's clear that XLM and XRP weren't just players on the board. They are the board. Let me explain. When you step back and look at how the financial world is repositioning itself, the patterns start to scream at you. The IMF, the BIS, the World Bank, BRICS, G20, SWIFT, and even private giants like Circle and Visa, they're all aligning around one mission, the new monetary rails. And these rails aren't theoretical anymore. They're already being tested, integrated, and deployed in pilot projects across continents. You have Ripple, XRP, building bridges between banks, clearing institutions, and central banks, the formal structure of the new order. It's the chess rook. Moves straight, fast, and with power. Then there's Stellar, XLM, the diagonal piece. It's not storming the center like XRP. It's cutting across borders, connecting NGOs, remittance networks, digital wallets, and unbanked populations. Same board, different paths, same destination. Now here's where it gets eerie. Look at Project Enbridge, a cross-border CBDC platform backed by the BIS Innovation Hub and central banks from China, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Look at ISO 20022, the global messaging standard now reshaping SWIFT and banking communications. Look at FedNow, the United States instant payment system. Each one is a piece, a quiet move closer to one global interoperable system. And what do you think sits underneath those systems? What kind of assets do you think are being modeled for instant liquidity, settlement, and value transfer at scale? The same class of assets built for interoperability. The same two names that always come up when you mention tokenized settlements and compliant rails, XLM and XRP. See, XRP is the public face, it's the yes, we're working with regulators asset. It fits into the IMF and BIS playbook perfectly. But XLM, it's the whisper network. The one quietly being integrated into MoneyGram, Circle, Coinbase, USDC, UNHCR humanitarian aid systems, and even cross-border disbursement networks that touch the real world. While XRP speaks at conferences, XLM moves money in silence. It's almost poetic, the way they've been set up as complementary systems. Ripple builds trust with the old world, while Stellar builds bridges for the new one. Now here's where the chessboard becomes impossible to ignore. You've got BRICS nations, openly working on an independent global payment network. You've got the IMF, quietly running their digital currency sandbox with Ripple's tech stack integrated. And you've got the UN and World Bank, both exploring blockchain-based remittance systems for developing regions, which, surprise, surprise, use Stellar's model as a framework. It's not one side versus the other anymore. It's one system with multiple layers, the institutional layer, XRP, and the humanitarian layer, XLM. The West may not say it outright, but their systems are already converging with this architecture. The East may claim independence, but their rails are using the same principles. Different flavors, same foundation. Now here's the moment that hit me. What if XRP and XLM weren't built to compete against each other, but to balance each other? Because think about it, a true global financial system can't run on a single chain or a single agenda. It needs duality. One that speaks to governments, banks, and regulators, and one that speaks to the people, NGOs, and grassroots economies. That's exactly how the chessboard is structured. And in this game, both XRP and XLM are winning pieces. As central banks tokenize their reserves, as cross-border payments migrate to digital rails, as stablecoins merge with CBDCs, who's positioned better than the protocols already bridging these worlds? This isn't about hype anymore. It's about timing. And right now, those quiet, patient moves we've been watching for years are finally syncing together. XRP is getting the regulatory green light. XLM is getting global adoption through humanitarian corridors. Two sides of one playbook. So maybe this whole time, The question wasn't which one will win. Maybe the real question was, when the final checkmate happens, which side will you already be on? Every time I look at XLM and XRP charts, it's not just price action anymore. It's like watching tectonic plates shift underneath the global financial system. Slow, invisible, until one day, boom, the landscape's unrecognizable. And if you've been paying attention lately, the partnerships, the integrations, the silence from the usual critics, you know something's about to break open. Because here's the thing, revolutions don't start with noise. They start in boardrooms, in private tests, in quiet approvals that never make the headlines. By the time the public sees it, it's already done. That's exactly where we are with XLM and XRP. The groundwork's been laid, ISO 20022 migration, CBDC pilots, World Bank's blockchain remittance models, Ripple's new institutional corridor expansions. You can almost see the outline of the future. It's not going to happen with fireworks. It's going to happen like a light switch, one announcement, one integration, one quiet flip. And the moment that happens, prices won't rise in a straight line. They'll teleport. Because this isn't retail hype, it's infrastructure adoption. When financial infrastructure moves, it doesn't move back. Now, I know a lot of people still laugh when you mention coins like XLM or XRP. They'll say, bro, it's been years. It's too slow. It's not exciting. But that's exactly how global transitions happen. Quietly, relentlessly, until everyone else wakes up to find they're already living in the new system. Look back at the internet. Look at smartphones. Look at streaming. Every single time, the people who noticed the pattern early weren't lucky. They were just paying attention. And if you've been here, holding through the noise, understanding what Stellar and Ripple actually represent, not just as tokens, but as rails for the next economy, then you already know what's coming. Because the truth is, this isn't just about making money. It's about positioning yourself in a system that's about to redefine how value moves across the planet. Every remittance, every trade, every stablecoin swap, every humanitarian fund, all of it will flow through these digital arteries that we're watching form right now. XLM for the people. XRP for the system. One heartbeat, two chambers. Pumping value into a digital future no one's truly ready for. And when that switch flips, when the IMF and BRICS finalize their rails, when USDC fully merges across Stellar, when banks quietly integrate XRP liquidity pools, you'll look back at these months, at this moment, and realize this was the calm before the rewrite. The point in history where everything felt quiet, because the new world was still booting up. So, if you're holding XLM or XRP, remember this, you're not just holding tokens. You're holding leverage over time. Every move, every regulation, every test is just one more confirmation that you were early. And when the world finally wakes up, when headlines start screaming digital dollar live, or BRICS payment network goes online, you'll be sitting there with a quiet smile, because you already knew how the pieces fit. If this hits something in you, that gut feeling that something big is coming, then you're my kind of person. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment, I'm early down below. So I know you're one of the few who actually get it. Because when this next wave hits, it's not just going to make headlines. It's going to make history. And if you're still watching this far in, you're already on the right side of it.